What is up, everyone? Thanks for tuning in. I'm Lord Thiethan, joined in the booth by none other than the illustrious Hyperion's very own Oakley, and we're going to talk week two of Checkpoint. Oakley, how are you tonight?
Pretty good. Just got done hanging up some curtains downstairs, and here we are producing and casting at the same time because it's short notice. And yeah,
You-
the show must go on. So here we are.
it
Got to talk
must,
about next
and
week and the previous week.
yeah. I was gonna say before moving on, I actually wanted to take a look at what had transpired in the last week, the first week of the Argonaut League, and it was actually really interesting. There were I think that there was actually possible so like not necessarily an upset or that both matches were upsets, but rather that that there were some surprising things that we got to see
Yeah,
all week last
absolutely.
week.
And our
Uh,
first game was Paradise Aegis versus Blink Strike that you
yeah,
had the
this
pleasure of casting.
Oh, and this one was fun to cast too. It was me and Portal Man in the booth. It went four maps too. So I mean, Oakley, it's always so cool when, especially at one point you cast enough collegiate, you cast enough high school, enough tier three, and at one point everything starts to just be decisive. So it was really cool to see Blink Strike put up as much opposition to what really is a veteran roster in Paradise Aegis. Folks who have played the game for so long, they know it in and out, they know each other, they know the strats and their strengths and weaknesses. So seeing what Blink Strike had to offer against the caliber of team that Paradise Aegis is was really exciting. But of course, Paradise Aegis has to win that debut game of the Argonaut League.
Yep, they've always been a staple team in the Hyperion Cups and now in the Argonaut Invitational Cup. They are out here showing up once again. They had a really strong Lijiang game. Um, then we had some map pool technical difficulties, so they played Dorado second, and Brickwall was still clicking heads 2, 3 years later in the tournament. So there was a lot of fun action that I got to see in this series. But in the end, Paradise Aegis, they came out and they showed the Hyperion Invitational Cup two premier division runner ups in Blink Strike, uh, what the Challenger division was all about with the 3-1 win.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was really cool to see some of these players returning as well. I know Portal and I got to geek out over Blur being back, or rather us getting to see Blur again. And for Blank Strike, actually, I wouldn't sleep on them at least for the remaining 4 weeks of the Argonaut League. That is 2 more weeks of the regular season and then 2 weeks of playoffs. That Mega Man, Warrior, they were some pretty standout players. I mean, all of them were. But I'm really excited to see what a little bit of an adjustment to some of the teams that they're playing really lends itself for Blink Strike to start pulling rugs out from players and teams. I think that that's going to be some really exciting moments. But for Blink Strike versus Paradise Aegis, it was a lot of regular Overwatch, and from what I understand, and actually I did get to watch a little bit of it, but the CSU Vikes game versus Ragnarok Thor was not like regular Overwatch.
Yeah, it started out regular on Lijiang, and I actually was the one that produced this game. So um, I got a front row seat to everything that kind of went down. Lijiang Tower, it was pretty standard. We're going to play Ram and run at you, Moyer Lucio style. And then CSU kind of buckled a little bit and tried some funny things. And then we get to King's Row, and we ended up on some Bastion mirrors, some Mago mirrors. There was an Echo. I think Widow was played at some points too. It was kind of wild. So yeah, and then we went to Dorado, and it was kind of full hold Overwatch. Hatter, I believe his name was on Ragnarok Thor, had some great
hmm
tracer gameplay and really carried Ragnarok through full holding on that point.
Yeah. Ragnarok Thor is a roster that I'm really excited to cast. I think that you conned me out of casting that one last week, Oakley, but I'll get my shot at getting to shout about Rook. Lightning, who I mentioned on last checkpoint, is an old mutual friend of mine. Um, Really though, I think that it's actually really important for me, Oakley, to highlight how awesome it is to see some collegiate participation in the Argonaut League. I know that that was something that that at one point was possibly getting cooked around a little bit, and obviously is an opportunity that we'd love to throw out the chance for more college representation, more of these young talented players. So I want to I actually think of for as much as I actually really love Ragnarok Thor and their roster, their team, I'm really invested into the narrative for the CSU Vikes White. Outside of the fact that they also have some names that we've known and loved for a while, including Winter, who, as I understand it, Oakley wasn't there last week. So heading into week 2, it's possible that we see an entirely different match, just because Winter is back in the fray.
Exactly. As your tank player, missing your tank player, your shot caller of your team, your rotations probably aren't going to be as snappy. And for everyone else, you have to adapt to someone else's tempo and their play style and their strengths and weaknesses. So doing that at the last minute, they had a good showing on Kings Row. If they have Winter back this Monday, should be a stronger CSU team that we see.
I'm really excited for Winter to be back because I think that was, I mean, Winter is, if I recall correctly, was an absolutely like just insane Rhine player. I think that we used to get so hype about Winter in the booth. So it'll be fun to see them back in the lineup. But really, I got to watch that Kings Row game. I watched it back with one of the guys who was casting Rainy Sticks, and there was some pretty funny stuff, but it was really Hatter's series ended up at the end of the day being, I mean, the whole crew is contributing, but just with so many brilliant standout moments, particularly on Kings Row, where the win for me, I imagine, was really solidified. Ragnarok Thor versus CSU Vikes White ends up being a really entertaining matchup, but I don't think that. I think that it really only gets better from here, Oakley. That's what I'm going to say. That's how I'll express it.
Yep, absolutely. Winter coming back next week. He was mainly an off tank player. I remember in the previous Argonaut or not Argonaut leagues, Hyperion Cups. Had a really standout diva. And Diva is kind of good right
Okay.
now, and Sigma's kind of good
Yeah.
too. So
Yeah.
who knows? Maybe next week CSU can pull off the upset over Blink Strike. So if we go ahead and start looking at the schedule for next week, we've got 2 great games here coming up. We've got CSU Vikes White versus Blink Strike on Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern, and Paradise Aegis versus Ragnarok Thor, the battle of the two 1-0 teams right now,
Hmm.
on Sunday at 8 p.m.
Yeah, there's a lot of meaning behind the week 2 matchups, actually. For both Blink Strike and CSU Vikes White, it's the opportunity to pick up map wins, to pick up a series win, and make sure that you're not the team that's going 0 and 5, 0 and 3 at the end of the Argonaut League. And for Paradise Aegis versus Ragnar Thor, it is a frantic, frenetic race to the top. I am talking biting, clawing, spitting, and then just absolutely demolishing your way to make sure that you're securing that number one spot. You want to be seated higher. You want to be able to play the teams in the playoffs that you're going to have better odds against, and as well, you want to make sure that you're making statements early on. So for Paradise Aegis and Ragnarok Thor both, they've got players on there who have statements to be made. Rook occurs to me as one of them. Rook, it's easy, so easy to pick on you for that one. But I love you. I miss you, and I'm so excited to see you play on oh goodness, when is that?
That one's on Sunday at 8
Okay.
p.m. and we'll
Yep.
be there.
Because yes, and the CSU Vikes White versus Blink Strike, which is the one that I don't know if I will be there for, is going to be on Monday. Uh I'm hoping that I'll be able to make it to that because, like I said, I'm pretty committed to the CSU Vikes White narrative. But like I was mentioning, for Ragnarok Thor, thinking Rook for Paradise Aegis, there's a couple of people on there to make a statement. Two-bit Brick Wall, both occur as also pretty easy options, and I think Brick Wall was actually in for our post game interview last week. It was a fantastic sport, so much fun to chat with as well,
He got
and man,
exposed. Bro's got like a
yeah,
million hours on Widow.
yeah, that's
Nerd.
true. Loser. And but oh man, I lost my train of thought. I was gonna say something probably positive about one of the teams.
Blake Strike
Fact is,
has Ha Warrior and Mega Man. They've been a duo for like ever and a half. They can carry
yeah,
games for sure.
yeah, that's true. And of course, for CSU Vikes White, all eyes on Winter. Let's see how it is having the leader back in the squad, and really letting the members of the team who need to focus on all of the other things that you need to do in Overwatch. Let them think about that and just have Winter lead the charge. Should be a lot of fun to watch. I think both of these series are going to be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And if we take a look at the series for next week, we've got Samoa as our starting map. First time in the Argonaut League and Hyperion Cup tournaments that we are going to Samoa.
Yeah, and then the rest is up to the teams from there. Map 5 is sometimes a hard one to get to, but I really want to see some flashpoint between these teams. I actually think I'll end up dropping this take on stream somewhere. A Xeno dropping Lux Nova is who that one sends me reeling back in time. Um,
Hashtag where's Juggle God?
uh, I miss him. And oh man, it's the unconditional love for players, casters, producers, organizations. It is not faded from me. Um, I, Going back to the point, I literally I want to see Flashpoint play between these two teams. I'll end up sharing this take eventually. Probably on every broadcast from here on out. I love Flashpoint. I think it's actually the best, most suitable game mode for Overwatch 2. Makes me pretty excited for Clash, which is right around the corner as well. I think we get a demo of that in season 10.
Yeah,
But
we do.
as well as there's a new push map coming out, which should be fun.
Yeah.
Uh, and okay, because the push maps are kind of mid right now, but I think
Hot
Flashpoint
take.
really tests players on principle and discipline. And I think that we got to see some really big pop off, really big meaningful moments last week. But I really want to see the teams that rise to the top here are going to be the ones who know the rules and what you can afford to bend and what will break if you test it. And that's one of the things that I'm really excited about getting out of some of these 5 map series. Namely, again, the easy one to pick out of that is going to be the Ragnarok Thor versus Paradise Aegis matchup. Guys, both teams, if you guys don't make that series close on both sides, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'll turn the narrative against all of you, actually. Negative Ethan instead of positive. But hey, maybe that'll be a chance for Blink Strike and CSU Vikes to show them both up. I wouldn't mind that either.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to that CSU versus Blank Strike match because I feel like both teams have a lot of redemption arc qualities that they can build up for the last week of the season next week as we go into the playoffs. So
Mhm.
there will be a lot of good Overwatch, and maybe for future tournaments we don't put the Overwatch 1 game modes in the beginning and we mix it up a little bit and throw some Overwatch 2 stuff in the beginning. So that'll be something that we can take note of for next time.
Ooh, starting off
Hashtag
series
leaks.
on Hanaoka would be pretty cool once we finally get it, and I guess it would be that far out. So you know, hang on to your seats for now, guys. Eventually, things will start ramping up. But in the meantime, next week we'll at least be starting with Samoa, which is an Overwatch 2 map. Maybe not the game mode, and possibly an opportunity to see teams play it out on Midtown. They won't pick it. They'll pick Kings Row. They always do.
Yeah.
But I would love to see teams play it on Midtown. I think
Pick
that's a very
Ike.
challenging
Be
map.
different.
Eichenwald, yep. I don't think there's any hybrid map that I'd like see like that I'd prefer to see players pick. I don't
They're
know.
just
I
gonna
think
pick Kings. It's kind of sleeper as a producer, but
I'm surprised that
okay.
who was it? Was it CSU Vikes that picked Dorado last
They
week
both picked
against
Dorado.
they both. Oh, you're right. They both did. Yeah, that's weird to me. Yeah, yeah, like all of you guys out here
They
picking
got
Dorado,
cross
get a
comms.
life, you guys.
Yeah.
I promise you that the reason teams pick Dorado, because this is what we do at UB ourselves, is we say, okay, what's a map that players hate? Dorado. Okay, so if we get good at Dorado, then maybe that'll give us a competitive edge against enemy teams. Well, guess what? Everyone thinks that. Stop picking Dorado. All right, I've said my piece, Oakley.
All right.
I think now that we'll probably see some better escort choices. Circuit Royale or Havana. Who am I kidding?
Yeah,
Um,
there was like a widow main that picked the map pool. I don't know.
yeah.
Kind of weirdo.
It's possible that week two has just innumerable surprises for us, despite what we had already seen in week one. From us here in the booth to all of our players. I got to sit up straight. Oh goodness, you caught me.
Oh no, I
Um,
did.
to from all of us in the booth to all of our players, it's so good to see you guys, those of you who are returning, and for those of you who are new, we cannot wait to see you guys in week two of the Argonaut Invitational.